Coming up, more fallout from the coronavirus pandemic. Columbus-based Cummins closing all southern Indiana manufacturing operations, also instituting temporary cuts in pay and hours. CEO Tom Linebarger joins me in our top story with details on the shutdown, his perspective on the COVID-19 impact, and company efforts to reach out to community as well. Plus, during these uncertain times, the Northeast Indiana Innovation Center in Fort Wayne implements a virtual resource center to help startups who are looking to start, grow, or innovate. CEO Carl LePan will talk about a unique opportunity for entrepreneurs to reimagine their business models. And rural Indiana facing special challenges in the coronavirus fight. Around Indiana, reporter Mary Rachel Redmond takes us to Greene County to show us how the only hospital in the county is coping with the pandemic, and the business community is rallying as well. Details on those stories and much more ahead on this edition of Inside Indiana Business. Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gary Dick. The death toll from the coronavirus pandemic this week passed 200 in Indiana. It continues to climb. Meantime, Hoosiers doing what they can to help flatten the curve by following Governor Holcomb's stay-at-home order. It all adds up to a very difficult time for Indiana businesses, many making tough decisions while also reaching out to help community. A good example is one of the state's marquee companies, Columbus-based CUMMINS, which is ending the first full week of a shutdown of all of its southern Indiana manufacturing operations. The company has also issued some temporary pay cuts, or cuts in hours and pay, also reaching out to help in the fight against the pandemic. And I'm pleased to welcome CUMMINS CEO Tom Linebarger to the show with more on those efforts and his perspective on these very challenging times. He joins us via Skype. Tom, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Gary. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, I mentioned, let's get to it right off the top, tough decisions faced there at Cummins and at virtually every company of every size in Indiana. You instituted some temporary pay and cuts to hours. Also, all southern Indiana manufacturing operations closed. Talk about the dynamics that led to those decisions.
This is an incredibly severe crisis, as you stated. I mean, the health crisis is overwhelming, and it's, for a lot of our healthcare workers on the front line, this is just an overwhelming challenge. And I think economically, it's also a big challenge. And companies like ours are trying to figure out ways to protect the health of our employees and our communities, and still find ways to make sure that we're a sustainable enterprise, because the economy and our communities will need us as the health crisis begins to wane. So those are the balances. As we think about our own operations, we've been in this crisis really since the middle of January, because we have a lot of operations in China, including 10 operations in Wuhan, where the center of the pandemic started. So we've been in this for a while now, and we've been balancing the challenges with, number one, of course, health and safety of our employees at all times, making sure we can operate safely. And then secondly, trying to make sure that we're serving the critical parts of the economy. Our engines go in trucks that deliver food and medical supplies, and so we need to keep some of that going so that we can make sure that those critical supply lines are going. And then third, we've got a number of different government and state orders that we need to comply with. They're not the same everywhere around the world or even around the country, and so making sure we can comply with those is also important. And then demand and supply has been a big variable in this. So obviously demand has dropped off. That's expected given the number of our customers have closed plants, but supply lines are also severely constricted. So all these are weighing in, and as you said, we had to make some very difficult decisions recently in southern Indiana. I will say that is not the best day for a leader of a company like ours. It's a great company, and to send out a notice to your employees saying that you'd be reducing their pay, even though they're working their hardest to make sure the company's succeeding and the community is served, is not a nice note to send out. It's not what you want to be doing, but we needed to do it to make sure that we have staying power through this crisis. So we did it. We did reduce salaries, and we tried to have the biggest impact for the highest paid workers, which I think everybody thought was a reasonable approach. We are closing all of our Southern Indiana manufacturing plants by the end of this week. We're doing that out of an abundance of caution. As I said before, we have some critical supply lines to keep filled, but we've been able to build inventory in our warehouses so that we can continue those critical supply lines while we temporarily shut down the plants. We've been operating at a limited production level anyway to make sure that we've got social distancing in our facilities and we're extra cleaning time. And so this shutdown will be temporary, but I think it's the right thing to do, just given the situation we have in Indiana today.
Tom, we don't have much time, but the Cummins has reached out in a number of ways to community, partnership with DuPont, I know, to produce some of these face masks for use by healthcare workers. Talk about, if you could briefly, that outreach to community.
Yeah, it won't surprise you that our employees have stepped up in every respect. Not only are they serving on the front lines, making sure these parts are available and working through difficult conditions and having to reorganize their work to be 6 feet apart at all times, but they've also stepped up in the community. So we have turned a lot of our community activity to making sure that we're helping the communities in and around our plants. So we again, supporting agencies that are providing lifelines to people that are out of work, that are otherwise struggling. We're helping on child care and health care. And then also we are trying to do our part on helping with personal safety, care workers and others. We've turned some of our filtration technology that we use for fuel filters into potential supply lines for N95 masks. Everyone knows those that healthcare workers need. Those are in short supply, and the biggest the thing that's most in short supply is the filtration media. We've got some very, very good media, filtration media production capability. So we're now working. We've got a license from DuPont, and we're going to start supplying that to mask makers and try to increase the supply lines. We're also working on respirators. One of our joint ventures is working on producing ventilators. So we are continuing to find ways to do our part to contribute to this shortfall of critically needed healthcare supplies.
Tom Linebarger is the CEO of Cummins. Tom, we really appreciate you taking the time in this very busy and very difficult time to join us, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you, Gary.
Just a few weeks ago, more than 1,000 workers at the General Motors plant in Kokomo were producing electronics like semiconductors, engine and transmission modules for multiple industries. Today, many of those same workers preparing to manufacture ventilators to help critically ill patients suffering from COVID-19. Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta joins us now with more on GM's role and how Trine University is also joining in the fight. Kylie.
Well, that's right, Gary. GM is partnering with Ventec Life Systems to produce the ventilators. They hope to start rolling those out about mid-April, which is impressive considering the plan was put into place less than a month ago. And one of the main priorities is to keep the workers safe. So protocols have been created. Employees have to have their temperature checked before they reach their workstations. They'll wear medical-grade protective masks and work 6 feet apart. Intensive training is underway as workers are getting used to the medical equipment. GM says once production starts, they expect to roll out 10,000 ventilators each month. Early hires have also been undergoing intensive training and exposure to the medical equipment, many of them doing so with a sense of pride, patriotism, and duty.
It feels really good. I mean, it's good that we're here. It's sad that we're in the situation we are in, but it feels really good that we can make a difference. My company's willing to take the chance and make a difference, starting with absolutely nothing, making it into a product that we know is going to save lives.
I'm proud to be part of this team. A lot of energy here. We're all with one single motto. We have to save lives. Let's get those ventilators out there. Let's save people of this country.
It's kind of overwhelming, and it's kind of really grateful that I get a chance to do my part and be a part of something. Our modern day Rosie the Riveters.
So like so many others throughout Indiana, GM workers in Kokomo are really taking a wartime approach in this battle against COVID-19.
That's a great story, getting national headlines as well, and so many people really pitching in. As I understand it, Trine University in Northeast Indiana also joining in the fight.
That's right, Gary. Teams of staff and faculty at Trine are working with Parkview Health in Fort Wayne to develop devices that could be alternatives to equipment that's in limited supply right now, like ventilators and N95 respirator masks. One team has already developed a machine that can automatically pump a manual resuscitator, serving as a ventilator if needed. They're already available for emergency response teams and hospitals. The other item they're working on at Trine is a hard-shelled mask that could be sterilized with a replaceable respirator filter, which would increase its lifespan. And Trine's team is investigating alternative filter material that could be used in those masks, which will be tested in a wind tunnel. So Hoosier ingenuity hard at work right now. Back to you.
All right, Kylie, thanks very much. Great perspective as always, and we'll see you a little bit later in the show. Well, COVID-19 has forced many Indiana companies to pump the brakes, especially entrepreneurs looking to start a business. Coming up next, we check in with the Northeast Indiana Innovation Center and its CEO, Carl LePan, in Fort Wayne. He has some important thoughts for entrepreneurs during these tough times. It's time now to go inside innovation, brought to you by Allegiant, pioneering safety. Well, small businesses are at the heart of the NIC, the Northeast Indiana Innovation Center in Fort Wayne, one of the trailblazers in Indiana's tech movement. With more on some innovative ways that the NIC is helping serve small businesses and the entrepreneurial community during the pandemic in Northeast Indiana, pleased to welcome in via Skype NIC CEO Carl LePan. As always, Carl, great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Gary. Great to be with you today.
Hey, for those who don't know, and I mean it, you and a number of folks up there, the NIC really pioneers in the co-working and innovation space in Indiana. Give us really a thumbnail model of the NIC and what it's all about.
Yeah, sure. The Northeast Indiana Innovation Center is an entrepreneurial support organization, and we provide all of the things that companies need in order to successfully start, grow, and scale their companies. And so we work with companies from the pre-company stage, when it's just an idea and you're moonlighting on it, to second and third stage companies that are looking at innovation as a competitive advantage and how they can help support and grow their core business.
Yeah, I know you're coming up on a 20th anniversary. Congratulations on that. I know you'll be celebrating that at a better time, maybe this fall when things have settled down a bit. But give us an idea, Carl, in your view of the entrepreneurial climate in Northeast Indiana and the vibe, if you will, in Northeast Indiana as we go through this pandemic.
Yeah, I think, as you see, not only in local communities like ours, but across the country, I mean, there's really a lot of trauma in the economic system. I mean, not to mention the health-related considerations, but also a significant amount of trauma on the economic side. And so especially small businesses, as we know with some of these new programs that have come out on economic injury and payment protection, they barely scratch the surface of the profound need that small businesses have. I mean, a number of studies have shown that just in the payment protection program, there's almost $1 trillion of need, and there's only about a third of that amount funded in the stimulus bill. So I think a lot of companies, the funding to get to a safer landing place is a huge issue as companies try to cope with how to do business in a world in which we can't connect on such a physical and personal way like we used to.
Certainly some sobering statistics out there that perhaps 1 in 4 businesses may be out of business going through this process. You, though, I know, feel as though this is a great opportunity for entrepreneurs and for innovators to recharge, reset, and retool.
Yeah, I think if we look at kind of where is innovation born, oftentimes it does come out of crisis. And I think, many companies are looking at businesses that they would have never considered or never quite connected the dots the way they are today as a result of having to deal with and cope with the pandemic. And so, I think it's important that, we pay attention to kind of emotional well-being and self-care for entrepreneurs, that we recognize that there'll be a normal. We're not going to just go back to the way things were. And there's also a real need to kind of reimagine the business in light of maybe some different ways that we'll be working in the future. I don't think it replaces both the need and the desire for social interaction, but I do think we're going to be thinking differently about how we connect, communicate, and message in a very impactful way what you might be able to offer to companies and organizations.
Great stuff. Carl LePan, the CEO at the Northeast Indiana Innovation Center, offering lots of services online, virtually, to innovators throughout the state of Indiana. You can go to the NIC and check that out. Carl, thanks as always for joining us. And again, thanks for all you do for Indiana as well.
Thanks, Gary.
All right. Well, just ahead, COVID-19 hitting big cities in Indiana, like Indianapolis, of course, very hard. But it is also presenting some very special challenges for rural communities like Linton in Greene County.
One of my biggest fears when this is over, that we're not going to have the businesses to support the community.
That's Linton Mayor John Wilkes on one of his biggest worries as a leader of a small town. Around Indiana reporter Mary Rachel Redmond with a report on how small town Indiana is dealing with the pandemic. But while the majority of coronavirus cases in Indiana have occurred in bigger cities like Indianapolis, it certainly has also found its way to Hoosiers in rural communities. Around Indiana, reporter Mary Rachel Redmond has more on the pandemic's impact on small town Indiana.
Thanks, Gary. The coronavirus has officially reached more than 2/3 of the country's rural counties. In Indiana, the Greene County community of Linton is one of the many rural counties dealing with the public health crisis.
We're having positive cases. We're seeing it here in our community. We've had hospitalized patients with it. There's still a lot of people who are out and about shopping and doing other things, and kind of don't know how to convince people that this is serious, because we're seeing the severity of it inside the hospital.
And given Greene County's aging population, who are considerably more at risk for the deadly effects of coronavirus, REIT says they've reallocated telehealth resources from area schools to skilled nursing facilities.
We have a physician that we call a sniffologist, because all he does is go into skilled nursing facilities, and the skilled nursing facilities are at incredibly high risk of this, as we're kind of seeing throughout the country and throughout our state. So Dr. Martin can do telehealth inside the facilities without actually having to step foot in them. You take it from the school age population and now you move it to the senior population, and it's the same benefit. That has been a huge help to us to be able to keep and reduce the exposure to those patients.
And the continued impact of the coronavirus is not only straining healthcare resources. Linton Mayor John Wilkes told me over the phone this week that he's concerned with the long-term effects of the pandemic on his small businesses.
That is one of my biggest fears when this is over, that we're not going to have the businesses to support the community. Without those businesses and those employees that pay the taxes that comes into our city to keep us going.
You know, there's two things that keep me awake at night right now. And one is, which of my chamber members aren't going to make it through this? The community is going to care if somebody doesn't open their doors or, can't weather this storm. Those are the people that, continue to write the sponsorship checks and, put their names on jerseys and, will rally around whatever there is to rally around. And if they're not here, then that is just a trickle-down effect.
Mary Rachel Redmond, Inside Indiana Business.
Tech companies and the challenges of COVID-19, how do they see things unfolding post-pandemic? Talk with Lessonly CEO Max Yoder. Well, Indianapolis-based tech company Lessonly recently completed a $15 million Series C round of funding and says it's planning to use that infusion to really double down on all aspects of its platform. Lesson Lee, which has grown to more than 170 employees, says its online training platform serves now more than 1,000 companies and growing. With more on a company that is clearly in growth mode and what's next, let's welcome to the show now Lesson Lee co-founder and CEO Max Yoder via Skype from your attic, right, Max?
Yes, it's a pleasure to be coming at you from the attic at the Yoder household. Nice to hear from you, Gary.
Very good, very good. Hey, Lesson Lee continues to be a great success story, launched in 2012. Max, for those who may not know fully, give us a quick thumbnail description, the business model of Lesson Lee.
Yeah, we make online training software that helps people learn and practice. So the learning part is, making sure you have the right information about what matters, why it matters, how to do it. Then the practicing part's about giving you a chance to actually apply what you've learned so you can really build the muscle and be ready when you're talking to customers.
And you have been building muscle in terms of the size of the company. As I mentioned in the introduction there, you're up to 170 employees, so you've experienced a lot of growth in these last 8 years.
Yeah, it's been a really fun run, and going from one person to 180 people 170 people has actually felt more gradual than it might seem. But we've just been really lucky to hit the market at a good time. We focused on sales teams and customer service teams, and that's really served us well.
And recently made big news headlines just a few days ago, landing $15 million in a Series C round of funding with some great investors. Talk about that infusion and how it, in your view, it will benefit the company, what you're going to use those funds for.
Yeah, AXA Venture Partners out of Paris led the deal. We've always liked how they think about capital-efficient businesses, which we believe we've been one. And Zendesk came into the deal, too, as a strategic investor, which is really exciting for us. Zendesk out of San Francisco, really a neat company that we're a partner of. We're going to use the capital to invest in every part of the business. You're going to see some product advancements. We're launching a new skills assess product that will help people understand what skills they need and then help them understand how to get those skills. So if you're a customer service rep, you can see the skills that are available to you and learn how to build them. And we're really pumped about that. But across the board, sales team, customer service team, we're growing it all.
Max, the COVID-19, the crisis we continue in, impacting business in a big way. Do the realities of what's happening here longer term maybe potentially stand to benefit your business, benefit Lesson Lee?
Yeah, I think, we're seeing many of our customers having challenges and many of our customers having new opportunities as well. So I think, it's a mixed bag, and our heart goes out to everybody who's affected by it, which is everyone. Yeah, we're seeing, the push to remote work was overnight. And certainly Lesson Lee is more helpful when your team is distributed because you can't get in the same room. So if we can do on-demand training the way we do it, it is mighty helpful, and we're happy to help at this time.
Yeah, Max, you are a real trailblazer and supporter of innovation and technology in Indiana. I know you wrote a book last year, I think, and as I understand, it's already on its third printing.
Yeah, Do Better Work, third printing. Really pumped about that. It's actually coming off the shelves this week, so we'll get 5,000 more copies, which will be really great.
All right, Max Yoder is the CEO, founder at Lesson Lee. A lot of news happening there, $15 million round of funding. Max, thank you very much for joining us, and continued success to you, and stay safe.
It's my pleasure. Stay safe. Thank you.
All right. Up next, the pandemic has not totally silenced the roar of INDYCAR engines.
Here it is, checkered flag. Scott McLaughlin wins the Honda Indy Grand Prix of Alabama in spectacular style.
When we come back, the pandemic's ripple effect on the business of sports. We'll look at how esports is changing the course for INDYCAR and other athletic competition.
In this together. Together we can all defeat COVID-19. We can stay together, stay fit, practice social distancing, and more importantly, maybe just stay at home and figure out ways to stay fit. So here we go.
Well, the legendary and very recent Basketball Hall of Fame inductee Tamika Catching sharing her game plan with all of us. In this together, we can defeat the coronavirus. Tamika, part of a coalition of government, business, and community partners all over Indiana coming together to flatten the curve. For the next several days and weeks, you'll be hearing from some of the state's most high-profile athletes, including Pacers All-Star Victor Oladipo.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to play basketball right now, but, one day I'm looking forward to getting back out there and playing for you guys, playing at the highest level possible. But most importantly, man, I'm just here to encourage us to continue to do whatever we can to stop COVID-19 from spreading. Obviously, it's a very interesting pandemic going on in our country today, in our world, honestly. And we have to work together in order to kind of prevent this and slow this disease down. Because honestly, together we can do great things.
Oladipo, like so many other professional and amateur athletes, sidelined due to COVID-19, shutting down essentially the world of sports. But there is an innovative trend emerging that is helping not only athletes and fans get their sports fix, it could also be a game changer for the business of sports. Inside Indiana Sports, contributor Bill Benner joins us now for more on how esports, especially auto racing, filling the void until we get back to the real thing. Bill.
Well, thanks, Gary. And today I'm joined by Ken Unger, who's the founder and president of Charge, a sponsorship marketing agency located here in Indianapolis. Former executive at the Motor Speedway with INDYCAR, many years in auto racing. And Ken, welcome to the show. I have to tell you, the first time I turned on iRacing, I had to check myself because it was so much like the real thing. It was just amazing.
It's really incredible. The technology has come so far because iRacing is about a 12-year-old product. But the advancements, especially with high bandwidth Wi-Fi, it's really remarkable what they can do from a competitive and television standpoint.
How did this all come together? I mean, again, this came together, it seemed so quickly, both with NASCAR and INDYCAR.
Yeah, I think all sports, including motorsports, had to react pretty quickly to what happened over the last month. And so you had this opportunity where both NASCAR and INDYCAR had the iRacing product available to it. So both decided to continue their schedule, not on the racetrack because they couldn't, but virtually. So you had them get together with their drivers, kind of pull together competitions that were then broadcast on network, and the results were incredible.
Yeah, talk about the viewership, which is, again, just, we're all cooped up. We all thirst for action and sports, but the viewership has been tremendous.
Yeah, the viewership's been great. You think that when you think about it, you have known race car drivers in a competition that people know, auto racing, with an outcome that's unknown. So it really breeds excitement. So, for example, the NASCAR races have had about an average of 1 million viewers on Fox Sports 1 and a Fox simulcast. INDYCAR has done almost as well with great viewership, and both have had incredible social media as people follow the drivers, both before the race, during the race, and then afterwards.
I was fascinated by the INDYCAR result of Barber Motorsports last week, virtual Barber Motorsports. But Scott McLaughlin, he won from Australia.
Exactly. So you have drivers from the U.S. and frankly from all over the world competing in these rigs. Some of these rigs that they have are worth about $20,000. So very realistic, pedals and wheels, and they're really competing with gusto that they have just on the racetrack.
And we're also getting cross-pollination between NASCAR and INDYCAR, with Jimmy Johnson has been competing, and this week announced that Dale Earnhardt Jr., the huge name in motorsports, is going to compete this weekend in the next INDYCAR Challenge at Michigan.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And I think the best thing is it's great for the fans because really they're waiting for sports product to come back. And so when they can't have it, I think these sports are really responding well. And in fact, they're now selling sponsorship. So it's a win-win-win. It's great for the sport. It's great for fans.
So, Ken, what does happen when normal comes back and we actually see cars on the track? And what happens to ice sports in that context?
Yeah, I really think that it's going to change things forever because now people have sampled what they thought was a niche before, but they really saw it could be very compelling entertainment. So do I think that live sports are done for? Absolutely not. But I do think that esports will continue to grow. As a matter of fact, it's $1 billion industry and is growing about 20% year over year.
Well, and we've talked about auto racing, and again, in auto racing, it's all forms. There's sprint car racing, Royal Outlaws, and all those forms. But the NBA with the 2K League, NFL doing Madden. I mean, it's certainly into other mainstream sports as well.
Yeah, I think the real winner now from a sports perspective is going to be esports, because they've shown that no matter what, the virtual environment can be delivered at home without interruption. So I think these sports are very smart to fill the void to help entertain fans who are stuck at home.
Man, we've always talked about the kids sitting down in their basement, and but now again, they're mainstream.
Yeah, it's interesting. About 160 million Americans play video games each year, and about 3/4 of all households in the U.S. have at least one gamer in it. So I think we're seeing that this is kind of a trend that's going to grow in popularity from year over year.
And do you think that the NFL, the NBA, do they feel threatened by this, or is it an opportunity?
Yeah, I really don't think anyone's feeling threatened. I think really what they're doing is they're finding this is an additional opportunity over and above what they're doing now. It's another way to reach fans and increase engagement with their sport.
Well, Ken, it's been great having you on, and really appreciate your insight. Again, the president in charge, and we wish you all the best going forward. Nice seeing you again.
Thanks. Nice seeing you, Bill.
All right. Gary, back to you.
All right, Bill and Ken, thank you both. Well, the coronavirus pandemic has forced several companies in Indiana to change their shutdown production schedules. Honda Motor Company once again extending its temporary suspension of production operations due to COVID-19. The company says auto manufacturing facilities in both the U.S. and Canada, including the Honda Manufacturing of Indiana plant in Greensburg, will remain closed until May 1. Meantime, NTN Driveshaft says it is extending its temporary shutdown to April 13. An employee at the company's Columbus manufacturing plant tested positive for COVID-19, and the company has identified several employees who may have come in close contact with that person prior to the shutdown. And as we mentioned earlier in the show, Columbus-based Cummins temporarily closing all southern Indiana manufacturing operations. The affected facilities are the Columbus Engine Plant, Fuel Systems Plant, Seymour Engine Plant, and the Columbus Mid-Range Engine Plant as well. The company plans to resume production May 4. Cummins says, though, all laid off employees will receive medical, dental, and life insurance benefits for up to 90 days. Still ahead, we learn more about the mission of Central Indiana's main blood center to collect plasma from Hoosiers who have recovered from COVID-19 to treat patients currently battling the disease. More in the Business of Health. Well, we often hear that giving blood saves lives, and perhaps that has never been more true than right now. As Indiana battles COVID-19, Versity Blood Center of Indiana, formerly the Indiana Blood Center, is now collecting plasma from Hoosiers who have recovered from COVID-19 to treat patients currently battling the disease. Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta has more. Kylie.
Thank you, Gary. Very important story. The FDA approved this emergency investigational treatment just days ago. As the 5th largest blood provider in the U.S., Versity is leading the charge to get what's called convalescent plasma to the most critically ill COVID-19 patients. Joining me via Skype to tell us more about this blood treatment and Hoosiers' role in the effort is Dr. Dan Waxman, Vice President of Transfusion Medicine for Versity Blood Centers. Dr. Waxman, thanks so much for joining me on the show.
Thanks for having me.
This is a really important topic, something happening right here on a local level to really help COVID-19 patients. Can you give us a quick medical explanation of how this blood treatment works?
So the way it works is we find individuals who have recovered from COVID-19. So these are people who were infected, people who have a test that shows that they were positive, and now at least 28 days post resolution of symptoms, and we mean no fever, no cough, and At that time, we then can have them come in and be a plasma donor.
And so this is being done across the U.S. We have the first Indiana patient donating this week. What kind of promise is this treatment showing?
Well, we're hoping that there is going to be great promise. Basically, these individuals who recovered have antibodies in their bloodstream. And so when we collect their plasma, these antibodies that fought off their infection when they had it are now able to take them. And when we transfuse a patient with active illness, that way these antibodies are pre-made by the first donor, and then they're going to be in the patient and hopefully fight off the infection and have them have a much better clinical course.
Okay, and can you talk just a little bit about this challenge of timing that really hinges on patients having to wait 28 days after their symptoms go away? It's not the onset of symptoms. So we're hearing Indiana is in a surge right now. So can we do this in time?
Well, and that's the thing is we need people to have resolved their infection. Now, if they are 14 to 27 days post-resolution of symptoms, and we can get a second test taken and show they're negative, we can take them earlier. But I think as we see more people who've had this and resolved, and we get to that 28-day mark, we really can start bringing in people and have them donate. We just had our first donor this week, and we really need many more to start building an inventory of plasma products. Now, each donation can be made into several different products. Donors, based on their size, can donate between 400 milliliters to 800 milliliters. Then we make these into 200 milliliter units, and then each patient who gets treated will either receive one or two of those units. And so one donor can treat at least anywhere from one to maybe two or more patients.
And we had Versity on the show in 2019 when you rebranded from Indiana Blood Center to become this bigger entity that now spans 5 states. So now being that bigger, stronger presence as Versity, did that help your organization be able to respond to this crisis in such a big way?
Absolutely, because I've been leading a task force that covers our 5 states for this. And so I have other physicians, I have our technical staff, I have our quality staff, and really they could all get together and say, okay, how are we going to go about doing this? What do we need to create these products and bring these donors in and draw them? And so it really has helped us. So just this week, we're collecting donors in Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan. We're actually going to be collecting our donors in Ohio and soon Illinois. So it really is something that the states together are able to work together, our centers, our staff, and we have an incredible staff, and we're all in here working together.
And you mentioned earlier that, we often look to pharmaceutical companies just by reflex for a solution, but really this is something that we can do here locally, and the public plays a big role in this.
Absolutely. This is something just like our everyday need for blood donors, and we still have that ongoing, where one blood donor can save up to 3 lives. Well, here's a situation where we have people who've recovered from an illness, and now they can donate a product that is made into a therapeutic agent. And so this is something that we can do on a local level. And so we really want people to contact us. You will have what they either can call or email us, and we can screen them and see if they can come in and be a donor.
Yes, we have some graphics that show the number that folks should call, as well as an email address. So I know you're really trying to get the word out there for folks to get in touch with Versity if they've had COVID and recovered. One other question about the donations that come in Indiana. Do they stay in Indiana, or can they go elsewhere where they're most needed?
Good question. So right now they're going to stay in Indiana because we have patients right here in Indiana who need these products. And these patients are at a variety of different hospitals in Indiana. As we start to build an inventory, then we can share between our parts of Versity. But right now, the donations that we're going to be collecting, we're going to be treating patients right here locally.
All right, very interesting. I know you can't see them, Dr. Waxman, but we were putting up the graphics of the number and the email, so we're helping to get the word out there. Thanks again for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
All right, Gary, back to you.
All right, Kylie, thank you. Well, social distancing has forced many Indiana workers to work from home for the past month, presenting challenges when it comes to maintaining good physical and mental health. One bit of advice for businesses looking for ways to support employees, it's right at their fingertips.
what we tell our supervisors and what we tell managers is you want to really try to create connectedness. Obviously that's really difficult right now, so we're telling people to really lean on technology.
The importance for workers to stay connected. Advice from Hoosier businesses from National Alliance on Mental Health Indiana Executive Director Barbara Thompson. These are uncharted waters for COVID-19, presenting new and unique challenges. The way we work, we interact with people. For many, the new office is the kitchen table or the sofa or recliner, isolated from coworkers. The disruption and uncertainty can lead to anxiety and stress. Thompson says in order to stay mentally healthy, it's critical for people to try to keep to their routines.
If you've always had like that coffee talk in the morning, maybe try to recreate that through a video chat. Get creative. When you're in the office, you have those kind of hallway chats. Try to do some of those if you can, where you just chat and not even really talk about business, but maybe you're just chatting and making sure everything's okay and having that human connection where even though I'm chatting with you, I still am trying to have that human connection. How's everything going? How are you doing? And just, not talking shop, if you will, but just really connecting on a human level, because we're all in this kind of experience together right now, and it's all a shared experience, although kind of separately. So acknowledge that.
Well, the National Alliance on Mental Health has several resources for businesses and workers dedicated to the coronavirus. It's called a resource and information guide. It's available on their website. The address is right there on the bottom of your screen. You can check it out there. Well, next, with the pandemic forcing schools to close for the rest of the year, teachers and students are in e-learning mode, and that is presenting challenges for at-risk students all over Indiana. We'll talk with leadership from Crossroads Education and the Started Up Foundation about what they are doing to help. Well, by now, we all know one of the biggest domino effects caused by COVID-19 can be found in schools. Classrooms are empty now. Teachers and students turning to technology and e-learning to finish out the school year. And this poses a huge hardship for at-risk families in Indiana, and not just from an education standpoint. Crossroads Education and the Started Up Foundation are answering the call with a philanthropic campaign to make sure every family has what they need during these unprecedented times. Crossroads founder and CEO Kevin Burkopes and the Started Up Foundation president and founder Don Wettrick join us now via Skype with details. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Kevin, I'll start with you. I know this is a great partnership you've established here with really a greater good in mind. I guess the bottom line is you both feel as though the inequities in education are really bubbling up to the surface now under the spotlight, the shining spotlight of the COVID-19 crisis.
Yeah, Don and I have been working for a long time together, and we have a sort of granular street level understanding of what's going on in education. And I've spent the better part of my career working in low resource communities. And what we know that's happening right now is actually always happening. But we think that this time is a time culturally where we've had to shift our complete way of operating as a community. And I think that right now is the time that we can shine the spotlight directly on the inequities, the gross inequities that have always been present in low resource communities. But at this time, we're talking about the distance between have and have nots at a historic level.
All right, let's talk about how this partnership is working. It's a philanthropic endeavor, really has a lot of moving parts, food insecurity, internet connectivity, all kinds of elements. Kevin, I'll start with you, and then Don, you can jump in as well.
Yes, I think it's really important to understand that we are not doing this alone. We have foundations, community centers, our network of CEOs. There's other initiatives that are happening through CICF, United Way. There was an e-learning initiative launched yesterday that has a committee of 7 that are making choices on what's happening. What we're trying to do is actually get a lot of the spotlight shine on where it's actually needed. And Don and I have been working a long time to try to innovate in education. It made complete sense that we would use our network and our platform to be able to sound this alarm and let everyone know what's really happening.
Don, talk a little bit about some of the aspects of the partnership. As I mentioned, food access for low-income families, high-speed internet access for low-income families, math tutoring, a number of elements to this.
Yeah, I think what Kevin had done a really good job of is like really seeing what the needs were. You know, a lot of times we're thinking about students that might have an e-learning alternative with their school, but what happens if they don't have any internet access? So we needed some hotspots. There are needs for just mobile, you know, either tablets or you know, Chromebooks. They need those as well. And then some cases just being able to, you know, the schools are providing meals. How do you get to school? So, you know, we took a look at, you know, how to work with Lyft. And then also Kevin's foundation has been wonderful at how to provide tutoring for students. And so we're even offering some tutoring up there. You know, we wanted to help with the Started Up Foundation once because we have an army of high school students right now that would possibly want to pitch in and help. And, you know, our mantra is always opportunities are everywhere. We think that this time, a lot of people in the private sector and the entrepreneurial sector and government, this is a time where we can say, okay, we have a problem, but this is an awesome opportunity to innovate our way to providing quality education and not just resting on the, well, isn't it too bad that, you know, things are terrible out there? No, we can adapt and make things happen. And I think it's one of the reasons we got excited to work with Crossroads is, you know, Kevin and his company have a great track record of just making things happen and start delivering value right away.
Yeah, no, and Don, you've got I think some free courses, if you want to call them courses, with CEOs and others who weigh in and provide some great content.
Yeah, actually, it was one of the things that we had taught a class called Innovation and Open Source Learning. And as school began to be canceled, we got a lot of emails saying, hey, this might be an opportunity for us to, you know, maybe they taught a science lab or a math lab and they had a couple of days to fill. We had a 2-week Seeing Problems as Opportunities mindset course where we got to work with, you know, visionary leaders, the founder and CEO of Uber Elevate, their new flying car division, Stephen Kotler. Anyway, these awesome people that wanted to pitch in and help teach mindset skills and maybe give teachers an extra couple days to figure out what they want to teach from now until the end of the school year.
Very quickly, we don't have about 20 seconds, Kevin, but how can folks get involved? What would you want to see folks do to help in the process here?
Yeah, so it's really easy. You can go to Crossroads Education's website. There's a donate button. You can contribute in that way. There's a way to do it through text messaging. We're really focused now on what we know, right? So food insecurity, the lack of internet at home, where homes 40% do not have the internet in our city, the lack of devices to connect, and then the lack of ability to have e-learning even happen when you have those previous 3 missing.
All right. Kevin Burkopes, CEO at Crossroads Education, Don Wettrick at the Started Up Foundation. Thank you both. Good luck with the initiative.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Well, the economic pressure of the pandemic weighing heavily on America's farmers. A majority are worried about the impact to their bottom lines. The most recent reading of the Purdue University CME Group Ag Economy Barometer recorded its largest one-month drop on farmer sentiment. The barometer dipping 47 points from the last month. Purdue says 3/4 of the U.S. farmers surveyed were either fairly worried or very worried about the impact of the virus on profitability. And I'll be right back after this. Stay with us. Well, as we leave you this week, Hoosier healthcare workers and first responders continue to be the real heroes in the fight against the coronavirus, courageously giving their time and talents to help in this time of crisis. Our friends at BioCrossroads put together a salute to these Hoosier heroes.
I just want to take a minute to thank all of our health providers, not just in Indiana, but everywhere.
This is a message for all the healthcare professionals, all the first responders, EMTs, EMSs, delivery drivers.
To the life sciences professionals, the innovators and entrepreneurs all over our state.
And others showing up to essential jobs during the COVID-19 pandemic.
I want to deliver the following message on behalf of all of Indianapolis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your courage, bravery.
We are so grateful for everything you're doing.
You're out there on the front line, so we can do our part and stay home. And we thank you.
There's no doubt that what you're doing right now is the most difficult job to do, but it is also the most important job.
The commitment you have shown to our community is heroic. In a time of change, you give stability. In a time of panic, you provide calm. In a time when many are understandably concerned for their own safety, you are concerned for others.
It's been said many times that the worst in times brings out really the best in people. And I think you all are a shining example of just that. So from the bottom of our hearts, we say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to BioCrossroads for putting together that video. That's all the time we have for this week. Remember, we are all in this together. I'm Gary Dick. Stay safe and stay positive. We'll see you next week.
Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick is a production of Grow Indiana Media Ventures with support from WFYI Productions.